You guys requested it. Fast dub techno, LDS, Dax J style. You can get this full template at the top of the description on my website. Make sure to go grab that so you can build your own track. This one's got a lot of really cool stuff to work with. Thanks for the support, and let's get started. Alright, so the first part is the fast part. So we're at 151 BPM, right? Bit faster than when you think dub techno, it could be anywhere from 100 BPM to 120, but this stuff is a lot more up there with the hard groove and stuff like that. Then we have our drums. Now, as you can hear, there's a lot going on, but first off, notice that there's not too much in the mid-range, right? I'm going to break this all down, but you can hear it's basically low end and high end. Because then when we have all these chords here, right, those all have a lot of room to fit. So that's the first thing with this stuff is there's a lot of space in the mix where elements are not clashing. I think that's really important. So first thing we got is the kick. Just got a nice punchy sample. I made it a little bit shorter here with the fade out. We have our bass line. So the way that I'm doing this is we have this sample. Right? It's this kind of industrial. It's like a kick with this interesting reverb tail. You can see I pitched it down an octave because C3 is the original pitch. And we got this rhythm. Right? But then because there's a bit of movement in the sample, right, if I make it really short, that's the rhythm. But then you get this longer part of the sample playing out. And you can hear it has a lot of low end, especially because we pitched it down. I've got an EQ, which is just cutting a bit of sub, but then also cutting all the highs out. Right, and then we have a nice rumble, which is moving around, converting it to mono, and then I sidechain it to the kick. And then on the group there's a little bit of stuff too, so here's without it. And with it, I noticed with both these guys, Dax and LDS, it's definitely not just that super clean, perfect, kind of none or none kick. A lot of times there is a bit of stuff to kind of glue the bass and the kick together and also just give it more texture while keeping it controlled. So first there's just this EQ, here's without it. What it does is it just kind of focuses it. As you can see, we're just kind of rounding off the sub there. So all those frequencies you can't hear get cut out, and it's just a lot more upbeat, right? And then we just have a little bit of drum bus. So without it, with it, it's basically a bit of saturation, a bit of compression as well, because I've got that transient knob up. And yeah, and it really glues these too. It puts them in the same place really well. Then we got our hi-hats. Pretty simple, we just have some shakers. Right, that's playing on every beat except for the upbeat. And then you can see I dragged the start time forward, so you can get a lot punchier shaker this way. I've also done that with this. And then I've got that layered with this. Just a little drum machine kind of hi-hat, so it gives it a bit more high-end. Then the last percussion we have here is this thing where I took some vinyl noise. So basically what it is it starts out like this. I'll turn off all the effects. It's just a bit of vinyl noise. I turned up the volume a ton. You can see the gain is way high because usually these are pretty quiet. And then I use the sustain on the envelope here, the amplitude envelope, to just make it really short. So you're just getting that. And it's this nice kind of textured percussion that sits really well. I want to say in between the mid-range and the high-end, right? But it's not going to clash with the chords. It's just going to fit really well. Then we got a low-pass filter, which you can see is just kind of randomly moving around. Not that much, but just a bit to where you can hear it kind of morphing. And it kind of tickles your ears nicely. A little bit of delay, which fills it out because now you're getting the delay repeats of the other parts on the filter sweep, right? So it just kind of builds it up more. A bit of overdrive and some drum bus, which you can just hear really brings out the percussion in it, right? A high pass filter, and then we're side chaining it to the kick. So then we move down to the chord stabs. So the main sequence that you hear is 2 layers. It's this one. And this one. So I'm going to try to get through this quickly, but I think it's very important to have 2 like this, because you can create cool stuff with just one. I mean, it's definitely not like, it's a case by case thing, right? But having 2 kind of playing together obscures it a bit. And it creates this crazy sequence that you couldn't get out of just one. So the first one, the MIDI looks like this. It's just one note, right? We're doing, the key here is B minor, but then what I've got is inside of the synth, there's this chord. So I'll turn off all the effects and show you what it just sounds like. Right, so I'm building a minor chord here. We have the 5th across 2 octaves and then the minor 3rd. So it's a B minor chord using that Ableton chord. We've got this analog patch, 2 saw waves, a low pass filter with a bit of envelope, a bit of an LFO, moving it around randomly. And also a bit of negative key tracking. So basically like the lower notes are going to be a little bit more open on the filter, and then the higher notes are a bit more closed. Amp envelope is like this. Then we start going into effects. We have a high pass filter, which you can see is moving around a little bit with the LFO on 8th notes there. This vocoder, which is on the noise setting. I've only got the dry wet at 30%, but you can hear it starts to give it that kind of noisy, a little bit more clicky kind of percussive texture. Some erosion. A drum bus, which is really bringing it out. Low pass filter, which is moving around. Sort of randomly, but very fast like that. Another low pass filter with an LFO on it, which is just straightforward saw waves down. A bit of resonators. Right, it's just really low, dry, wet. This echo, which is just a doubler, it's really, really fast, and it's on the ping pong setting. So it just spreads it out stereo-wise and adds some cool flanging. A bit of delay. Really dubby. Sidechain. And a high pass. So you can see to create this, you know, it's a pretty basic chord, but then it's just this crazy chain with a lot of movement and a lot of sort of like adding to the chord sound to create that. Then for the next one, there's the rhythm, right? It's a really repetitive rhythm with this one actually. Like it just goes over one bar and just repeats, but then it plays off of the rhythm on that other one really well. Right, but this one's more like steady in your face the whole time. It's that same B minor chord, B minor third, and then I've got the 5th down an octave, right? So you kind of just spread it out a little bit. So let me show you what this sounds like with no effects. So it's a similar sort of patch to what you just saw. Some saw waves going into a punchy low pass filter with an envelope, and then kind of like a fast moving LFO. Which does a lot for this if I turn it off. Right, you can hear that's really what's creating a lot of that movement. The amp envelope is really short and punchy as well. We go into a vocoder on noise again. Right, so it's a really good way to get that sound. In this case, I brought the formant all the way up and the bands are really low. A bit of delay, which is adding a lot of stereo width, as you can hear. Sidechain, and then a high pass filter. So then we got this little chord stab you just heard. Right, so the way that you do this one is you're actually going to want some audio. Right, I have like this. It was a chord stab that I reversed. And then I brought it here and just made it kind of fade in with the fades in the audio. And then what I'm doing here is it just hits in a very strategic place. Like it's not that often. Right, but it kind of fits really well at the end of that little 4 bars there. And then we have a bandpass filter, a vocoder with the noise again, just like you've been seeing, a bit of reverb, which is big, but also like the size is down, sidechain, and then high pass. And yeah, on its own it seems really simple, but again, you put this with those other chords. Right, and it just kind of like, it all fits together really well. And I think that's a lot of these tracks where you hear this crazy sound design. It's like, how are the chords morphing? Well, they might not necessarily be morphing. It's just using like reverse samples like that and stuff in really strategic places. Then we got this little chord step. Kind of like a deeper, more classic dubby sort of chord. This is also playing that same B minor chord that you've been seeing the whole time, right? And I did the same thing here where I brought the 5th down an octave. There's a sound straight out of the synth. So it's 2 saw waves, a bandpass filter with a pretty high resonance, some envelope, and also the amp envelope is like that too. I've also got a little bit of LFO on the frequency. So you can hear it slightly different every time. You can hear it moving. This is like a really slow LFO. I've got some erosion, a bit of echo, which is really long and held out. And there's a bit of reverb on that too. And then some drum bus. And I didn't even want to sidechain this one too. Like certain ones like that are more held out, not sidechaining it can actually help it to just fit in the track a little better and kind of be heard more. Then the last thing is we just have a bit of vinyl noise. Right, I heard this in a lot of the Dax tunes, a lot of the LDS tracks, especially like in the parts where there's no hi-hats, you can really hear it. Right, and it just adds to the atmosphere a ton. So it's literally just a bit of vinyl noise, sidechain to the kick, and high pass, and there you go. And that is how to make fast dub techno in the style of Dax J and LDS. Thanks for the support, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to grab this template at the top of the description. It really helps support me. Plus, it's a great template to build your own tracks off of and really get going with the style. It's not easy, but with this template, you'll be able to get going pretty quick. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.